Hi, I'm Jackie Tantillo, and this is Should Have Listened to My Mother. I so enjoy sharing these conversations on Should Have Listened to My Mother. Are you who you are today because of or in spite of your mom? I believe that's food for thought for many of us. And you can find us wherever you listen to podcasts, including Apple, iHeart, YouTube, Spotify, etc. And please subscribe, like, or leave a review. It just helps us out a lot. And it's really easy, especially on like Apple and YouTube. And we certainly appreciate you taking the time to do so. Stephen DiJoseph has been studying, writing, and performing music for over 60 years. He's recorded 11 albums, the recipient of multiple awards, and is featured in many videos. Stephen is joining us to speak about his mother's influence throughout his life. His 2023 album, Songs, Dreams, Circumstance, was released on the Deco Entertainment label and the Warner Music Group ADA. Stephen studied jazz, pop, classical, including Debussy, Brahms, Beethoven, and one of his first influences, fanning his passion for music, was his grandmother's music box. At 6 years old, he knew he needed to be a musician. Shortly thereafter, Stephen was diagnosed with Tourette Syndrome, or commonly known as TS, a neurodevelopmental disorder. Decades later, Gene Shea, a former DJ on Philadelphia's public radio station WXPN, said, "Stephen demonstrates the creative genius of neurodiversity with his unique virtuosity and irresistible humor as he takes his audience for a spin through his synaptic adventure." And that synaptic, or Tourette's adventure, is what Stephen likes to refer to as his collaborative companion, and he takes it along with him wherever he goes. "I am a dedicated neurodiversity advocate," says Stephen, and it's a pleasure, Stephen, to have you on Should Have Listened to My Mother.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here, Jackie. It's amazing.
We had tried to do this earlier, this record.
Yes.
But you know what? Things always work out. So here we are.
Right. Yes.
And based on the information, let alone the little tidbit I know about your grandmother's music box, but your mom and your dad, just to give your dad credit here, they were both involved in your musical development.
100%, yes.
And you also had given me your mom's name in advance, but how about if you share it with my listeners?
Sure. It's Angelina.
Concordia.
Concordia. That's correct. Yes.
DiJoseph.
Not an Irish name, right?
Not an Irish name. So your mom, Angelina, and is that your maternal grandmother whose music box perked your eyes?
Yes, indeed. And I still have that box upstairs in my bedroom.
Yes, it came to life again, right?
It sure did, yeah.
Let's give your grandmother credit. What's her name? What was her name?
Was Anna.
Anna and Angelina.
Anna and Angelina, yeah. And Anna came over to Ellis Island, like many people in that period of time, and met my grandfather here.
That's pretty great. My ancestors were married just prior to coming here. My father's side of the family, anyway. Not my mom's, but from Italy as well.
Yeah. Amazing.
So either of these women, these role models in your life, were they music fanatics or musicians?
Well, opera. My grandmother loved opera. And but I was not. I didn't like opera myself. But I mean, I grew to appreciate it. But as a kid, not so much. Just my mother was a big fan of the crooners of the 20s and 30s, and Sinatra and Tony Bennett and all those.
That's all guys. Good too. It's a little different than opera, but.
She got pegged for, I wish I could remember the name of the actress a bunch of times. But I saw why, because I saw pictures of my mom when she was young, and she was just beautiful.
They're all beautiful, right?
Right, yes.
I'm sure she was up there liking all of the ones of the current day, right?
no big fan of all of the vocalists and actresses.
Sure. We were supposed to clean our house every weekend. There were 7 kids in the family, so we would listen to the Met live, the opera live from the Met while we were cleaning our house.
Wow.
And then we had Sinatra on all the rest of the time, and we had French Canadian singer. We had a lot of different music, Piaf, and all of them. So I can totally understand, and I respect that passion for music for sure.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about Angelina. What was she like as a child? Do you know much about her? Did she do advanced education, or did she work? Did she have her hobbies?
She was. She worked as a youth. At a certain point where she became a married woman, she wanted to be a housewife, raise the kids, stay home, and do that. And that's exactly what she did. And she was excellent at it.
Do you have any siblings?
Yes, I have one brother. I'm the youngest. Okay. I'm the baby.
So she was home with both you and your brother. And was she actively involved when you weren't preoccupied with school or things? Or did she, encourage you to keep yourselves busy?
Well, both took place. She and my father were always, my dad was always checking in. He was busy with work, and the roles that people took on then were different than now. I think it was less. My mother was more like, okay, are you doing your schoolwork? Why are you, and of course with me, why are you ticking? Why are you twitching like that? What's going, they thought it was behavioral issues. So my mom was involved on that everyday level,
Sure. Well, thank God that she saw it and recognized it. That's the first thing, right? And then to go outside of the 4 walls of your home and not be embarrassed by it or, don't want anybody else to know. She pursued neurologists and things. Is that correct?
Yes. It took, I think it was literally like 10 years between 6 and 16 that we didn't know. We went to family doctors. We, inquired around, but it was a bit slow going because they didn't think it was, maybe I was going to outgrow it, these kinds of things. But eventually my mom was like, finally she found a neurologist in Philadelphia. He was a head neurologist at Jefferson University, actually, a really talented man. And I remember his name, Dr. Schlesinger. And so Dr. Schlesinger was the one who said, well, he has Tourette's.
As simple as that, so after all these years of searching.
Right, it's like, and of course we're like, oh, well, what does that mean? It's like, so, what is it progressive? What happens,
So, and then how did she think that music would play an important role in your life? Or what was it about, oh, he needs music? How did you get to that point?
It's very interesting because she could sing, she had a talent for singing, and she wanted to be a singer in her heart, but didn't feel the impetus or feel she could go out and do it, so she wanted to make sure that I had opportunities that she feels she didn't have. So she got me with lessons, and they observed, like I was the one who instigated the entire thing. When I was 6 years old, I was watching television, and it was the Beatles on for the first time, and on the Ed Sullivan Show, it's called.
Sure.
And I jumped off my chair literally, and I said, I want to do that, and they're like, what, So, and within a few weeks, the Tourette's started. So it was a whole thing, kind of a launch, a coming of age at 6, for me. So there was no slack in my like there was no holding back. I was like, I want to play, and I kept telling them all the time. So they let it ride for a little bit, and then they got me a toy instrument. My mother prompted my dad, buy this toy organ, they can play. And I just launched right into it. And eventually they got me lessons. They would go to these dance meetings, dance club kind of things. They would learn cha-cha and all the dances. And my mom found this teacher, very talented teacher, eventually that I went to after I learned the basics, and so, but both my parents were instigators of that.
So they went out of their way to make sure that you got this fill of something that could balance you or
Yeah,
calm you. Or so maybe we should go back a little bit and explain a little bit about what Tourette's is
sure,
and
sure.
the symptoms. So in case people don't know, then they'll get an idea.
Absolutely. So it's a neurological condition in which things like motor tics, as they call them, are present, and those motor tics can be almost anything you could imagine. Some people touch things like 3 times, or like almost it's a blend of OCD in there because it's just part of it. Then there's these vocal noises you'll hear me, making
Right, like
every
a
once in a
stutter or
while.
something, maybe.
It's not considered stuttering, although the repeating a phrase that a person with Tourette's might do is because they're trying to get it just right. Or again, a little reflection of OCD, if you will, because that's in there as a syndrome. It's got a whole. It's got motor tics. It's got comorbid things like OCD and ADD and ADHD, and so there's you get a whole bunch of stuff under one umbrella.
You have the gift basket.
The gift basket condition. Yes, that's how I joke about that. Yes, indeed.
And I'm not joking. I'm not laughing at you. I'm
Oh no,
just
no, no.
enjoy sharing this conversation. So it could
It's
be
true.
a movement in the body, right?
Yes.
Or a vocal or speech related, or the head, or the eyes blinking
Yes, and-
repetitively, a repetitive motion.
And then you have the sensational aspect, which is called coprolalia, which is a funny word to me, but it's when someone with Tourette's blurts lank curses and stuff like that, and it's like, but it's a smaller percentage of people with Tourette's actually have that. I did have that as a teenager, as a youth, and in my teens, and I have somewhat of it. Although it's more controlled. I can control it. There's more control now as I'm older, but it's there. It still surfaces in various times.
And all of this it's out of your control. So if all of a sudden you start blurting out 4-letter words, do you
Or
you're
some kind of-
aware
yeah.
you're aware that you're doing it, you just have no control over it whatsoever.
That's the challenge in the Tourette's.
hard.
The control mechanisms. What do they call them? I guess it's like impedance. I guess it's sort of like I'm looking for a word, resistance. Something that in where you can control it, you inhibit it. So the inhibitory function in the brain of a person with Tourette's is kind of faulty.
Right. There's a synapse break somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Interesting. And they've been studying this for years, so hopefully
Yeah.
they'll make some progress.
Yeah.
But it hasn't impeded you. I mean, maybe
Well,
when you're younger, because you seem to be doing rather well.
Well, it's an interesting thing because there's the showbiz, if you will. There's the appearance of how things come. I'd say that I am determined and driven, and I think those elements help. My mom taught me, she always said, make a plan and work a plan. And just obviously it sticks with me. It's in my head. I mean, there were many times when she showed, she pointed things out to me. She told me, it's the people in your life who are important, not the things. She said stuff, she was just really a good heart. She had a good heart.
Yeah, philosophical. And
Yeah.
for the things that really matter in life, right?
I think so.
And will give you confidence, because if you have the right people around you, they support you.
Yes.
And it will help you move forward.
Yes, she didn't want me to not have the opportunities that she felt she didn't have or wasn't able to achieve, So she was like determined I mean, she had a vision of what she wanted me to be, but regardless of that, she still supported what I wanted to do.
What was her vision for what she wanted you to be?
Well, basically, she pictured Liberace. I said, Mom, there's already a Liberace.
Was
But
that
there's
the
not
outfits that you didn't like, or the part of it, or
well,
the me?
no, oh no. I think he was a real showman,
Oh,
and
absolutely.
the visual was stunning. And I said maybe elements of that, Mom, but she always envisioned me in an orchestra playing a white piano, and I appreciate that. I actually never got to play a white piano, but I have been in ensembles, and she did help me to get opportunities, to play at a young age, So they brought me. She and my dad brought me to a dinner club once, and they were friends with the organist. And Ralph Bond was his name. He was famous around the region in Philadelphia, and he's kind of like a Larry Ferrari type of character. Larry Ferrari, for those who don't know, was a famous organist on television.
Uh-huh.
And so Ralph Bond had his brand of organ playing, and they brought me to this dinner club, as they called them, and put me up there on stage. So it was really, it's kind of a hands-on training of being in front of people and playing,
Yeah, performing live. Now, were you
Yeah.
mortified when they did that, or you were
I
like,
was
"This is
scared.
awesome"?
I was scared, man. I had to it's a sink or swim, kind of situation. I think those kind of situations can be really good. It proved good for me. I think I learned inklings of improvisation then, it was like, if it didn't work, keep going, repeat it twice.
Sure.
As one teacher said, if you make a mistake, do it 2 more times.
And
it'll
it's not a
sound
mistake
intentional.
anymore.
It's intentional. It's jazz.
Oh my gosh,
Just to
that's
be
brilliant.
hilarious. Yeah.
For me, I've been in front of a mic since I was 17, 18 years old, but I
Wow.
still get nervous because
Uh-huh.
I always tell my students, if you don't get nervous or excited before you interview somebody, then you shouldn't be doing it anymore. I think it's
Right, if
really
it's just-
important.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
have to be prepared. You got to do your homework. But if you're not excited or I don't know. That's my interpretation, and you
Yeah,
have to
yeah.
use it.
I can relate to that, and I think I think that's what helps in terms of having something, any kind of condition, that is the determination and the excitement about something that gets us through challenges. I think
Now, where did your mom learn that perspective? Because it's brilliant what she told you. Make a plan and work a plan.
Yeah, my take on it is that she saw my grandmother, very dedicated to taking care of the family, cleaning the house, doing all this stuff, making sure the kids worked with her, my grandmother,
Right.
and cleaning. So I think she was taught by my grandma, who was an awesome person. She was a very strong little woman. She was like maybe 5 feet tall or 5'1".
Yeah.
And she was just she had like a chutzpah, I guess.
Don't mess with grandma.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Did your mom, was she a great Italian cook?
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Tell us, what did she make?
Oh my God. Well, okay. Even though this is not vegetarian, she made amazing meatballs and chicken, all of those kinds of dishes. Fish was also amazing. She had these roast potatoes. It's just that nothing has. Maybe top chefs taste like it.
Yeah.
Because they also were raised in that. So she really, gourmet quality food. I mean, it was always. She always just, she'd pull together holiday dinners that were, Herculean, I guess is the word.
Yes. I like that.
Oh my gosh, just was really all out on it.
And did you spend time with her cooking?
Oh
'Cause we
yeah,
used
you
to
mean
cook
while
with
she
her
was
mom.
cooking?
Yeah, that's how you learn.
I'd hang around so I could taste stuff.
Well, that's a win-win.
And run errands, or I'd have to wash the dishes, or clean up.
Yeah. So where you began your musical journey and where you are today, have you fulfilled your dreams?
It's an ongoing process. One of the things that happened this year was that I got a small record label deal, and that is certainly something that I've wanted to have happen if it was a good fit. And I've been to Nashville, I've been to LA, I've been to New York, and in search of connections that way. And here I was in my own home. I won't, it's where I live. It's not my hometown, but it's where I live. And I walked into a local club to hang out with the musicians and listen. And I meet this guy who has a record label, and his two kids have Tourette's. So it was just such, it was a divine appointment, I guess I think of them as. And that's how the label opportunity came about,
It's amazing.
It is.
Because I was going to ask you, the spiritual aspect of things seem to be prominent in your music or in your heart and mind. Is that true?
For sure. I think we're definitely more than we appear to be. And it's always been something that I have felt or practiced or thought about or wrote about. And, so yeah, that's definitely been with me since I can remember, even as a child. Would have what I would call mystical experiences as a kid, and that always stuck with me. Regardless of the challenges or even when I got down or depressed or whatever, it always seemed to come around to that.
Do you mentioned mystical events or happenings. Were there specific visions you would have, or just a feeling of light or positivity?
Yeah, most of my experiences were not of a vision nature, although there were some heavy dreams that took place. There was a monk whose work I used to read named Thomas Merton, very famous in the circles of what would I call it? There was an ecumenical movement where all the different spiritualities are coming together and meeting and talking about commonality. And he was a big proponent of that. And so I would read his materials, and I had a dream of meeting him, and it was just like as real as our chat here. So that was a pretty powerful thing.
Were you a teen or were you an adult? Or
I was a teen. Yeah,
wow,
well, let's see. Yeah, probably 18, 19.
Right.
But as a youngster, younger, I would just have. I just felt like I was transported by things like music and nature and just the way something appeared to me. I'm looking at Christmas lights, and you're transformed by you're transported by the magic. So that kind of feeling really has never gone away from me, even though I went down some strange roads and stuff like that. It always kind of resurfaced.
Well, I think it's important for us to have something bigger than us or brighter than us, above us or around us. And we often go in directions opposite that. But that's human nature,
Yeah, well, my mom was instrumental in, she didn't push a specific religious view, but she always taught or expressed being aware and caring about others and life and stuff like that. So it was ingrained.
That's good. And do you play by ear? Because when you get a vision or a feeling...
too painful. I was just kidding. I can't but yeah. So I learned, I studied, first I started with ear and, imitating and that served me well because there was what was called ear training with musical studies. But I began to study classical music with a teacher, and eventually I spent some time in colleges, even if just conservatory level, just to get into these aspects of learning from people who could help me, understand. And then, it came to the School of Hard Knocks and being on the road and traveling around and playing. That was also a major teacher.
I think it also, and you told me, because I want to ask you about improvisation, but it's also being more comfortable and trusting yourself too, when you can just say, I'm going with how I feel, not by the notes per se, or, is that a part of becoming comfortable? I'm not a musician, so I don't know.
Right. Well, being someone with Tourette's, that's sort of a life code where you're playing the ball where it lands, so to speak, because, I'm up on stage, for God's sakes, and I'm like, I'm moving, doing these movements. So that became part of my shtick, like finding the humor in it was important to me. And also in teaching, I mean, what better a teacher than I'm losing my analogy there, but, I have it, so I have something to say about it. You know what I mean? It's different than a medical perspective.
Right.
But so anyway, just being able to play the ball where it lands was a phrase that stuck with me.
Right. To not get hung up on doing it right. However your body and mind allow you to make the notes come out, I guess. So you are on Instagram and Facebook, Stephen.
Yes.
Stephen with a PH, STEPHEND, as in DI, Joseph, Stephen DiJoseph on Instagram, and it's DiJoseph Music and Film on Facebook. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, I'll have all of this information for my listeners in my show notes, and your website is stephendjoseph.com.
Yes.
I'm just tickled pink watching your videos and listening to your music.
How awesome.
Really, really made my day, and it's so nice to see artists performing and showing others that there are no boundaries, whether we have a neurological or physical condition.
Yeah.
Going and creating what you'd like to create. I think that's the most important thing.
Finding, like, I guess it's like the way of water, to be zen about it. I guess it's, water manages to flow through almost anything. So it's kind of inspiring to try to think about our lives that way.
Path of least resistance for water.
Yeah,
right?
path of least resistance. There you go.
Oh my gosh. Stephen DiJoseph, thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, it's been a pleasure, Jackie. Thank you for having me.
And I'll be thinking of Angelina.
Please. Yes.
And Anna, your grandmother.
And Anna. Gotta be, yeah.
The mighty one, the little mighty one, the tiny mighty one.
The tiny mighty.
And we will be back next week with another episode of Should Have Listened to My Mother.